I saw you coming. Hope you'd visit. Just about mad with worry. What with the freemen roaming the hills and caverns. Tell me, child, have you noticed a young woman about? She's quite fair, with red hair, a tattoo like mine across her cheek. It's been 3 days. Their campfires burn all through the night and cast unsettling shadows. They're the worst kind of bandits. Those who don't kill for excess, but for necessity. I am no one. Everything that defined me, my livelihood, my family, my home, all of them were left ash by the Tuatha. Lyra is my life now. None of us wish to be without a roof over our heads, begging for our meals from any man or woman who passes us by. It's not what any of us planned. It was fate. My newfound love, and the only person I have. Everyone, my wife, my son, my grandchildren, all of them were killed in the attacks. Nothing remains but Lyra. She and several of her friends went in search of a better place to make our camp. This wretched sun takes its toll, doesn't it? But they never returned, and I worry. Would you do an old man this one kindness? Would you help me find her? Thank you. I am not rich, not anymore. But what I have left to give is yours. It means nothing without my love. Lyra went in search of refuge in Oriata's tomb. A better place than this desolate cliff. I would try the cemetery on the hill where they buried all the old war heroes. She resisted my advances at first. Tried to use our differences in age to deny the connection. But in the end, fate played its beautiful hand. We began as friends. I was the hunter and she was my apprentice. But her skills quickly surpassed my own. She is a gifted woman, a true wonder. A fitting memorial for a great man. He saved our people from complete destruction. If I had the strength, I would climb that hill and pay my respects. She and her friends were crawling all over the hill near Oriata's tomb. Not exactly the way to show respect, but she meant well.
East of the Wolds, you'll find Talarain, a warren of old strongholds and ruins, and crawling with beasts. Fortunes can be had there for a lucky adventurer. Of course, the ruins have claimed more than a few lives. I heard rumors that Castor had been sent to his maker. I'm just sorry I'm past the age where I could have sent him myself. The bastard's better off dead for what he's been putting us through. Thanks kindly for your work, stranger. Oh, really? Someone finally answers to my posting? Well, do you have anything to turn in? Got a few for Finwick? Good enough, but bring me some more and I'll see you get a proper payment for them.
What is it now? I've told you before and I'll tell you again. We will leave when there is someplace else for us to go. Tell your friends in Emer that as long as the Tuatha burn our homes, we'll keep searching for a place to settle. I was raised in Colm and spent my summers fishing the Tawili coast. And when the war came, I threw my lot in with General Talera. May she forgive herself. They claim to be low on supplies, to be unable to spare even the smallest charity. But I know better. I have seen. Unlike us, they have everything they need, and more. Here we are safe from the Fae, all of them. We are simple people. We don't wish to be pawns in the games of immortals, summer or winter. As for Emer, the villagers have made it very clear that we're not welcome. There would be more understanding if they had endured our hardships. I saw them with my own eyes, and I know Tuatha killed my fair share in the war. I am Elrod Edmund, leader of this pathetic band of ragmen. We come from the farms of the Tawili coast. Go there now, and you will find only ruin. The Tuatha raiding parties terrorized us where we were safest. At home. There are spies among us, my friend, and they must be rooted out. Will you help me? Kill them. What else? I would do it myself, but I must lead my people. They have no hope left to speak of. My strength is all they have. Fine. Then we shall be discreet. There are 3 whom I suspect of scouting for the Tuatha. They are paid in gold. There is no record of their actions. Onred Amfast is posing as a military recruiter, while Froma and Nag are both residents of our camps in the plain. Be careful. Consider all of them well connected. Be swift. Be merciless. Onred lurks in the shade of the Forsaken Plain mostly. Try Amer, or the West Phalanx. Froma and Nag are likely in one of the refugee camps to the east.
Oh, hello. I don't recognize your face. Strangers are somewhat scarce in a village like this one. Good day. I am Anker Edmure, scholar and novice sagecrafter. Of course, I may not be a novice much longer. Not after the Scholiar Arcana reads my latest discoveries. I have lived in Amer for many years, uneventfully so. But recent events have led me to believe that my time here is all part of a greater destiny. You see, my apprentice Donald and I have noticed strange weather patterns that occur only in the Forsaken Plain. I don't have answers yet, but we will. Very few have noticed, but the temperature around the Forsaken Plain is dropping. It's so slight that you wouldn't even feel the chill unless you knew to expect it. I don't know the cause of this phenomenon, but I'm sure whatever it is will greatly interest the Scholiar Arcana. I follow the strains of magic to this spot, across fields and forests and over sea and stone. There's a great power resting beneath them air. It's ancient, wild. They are the supreme authorities on magic, and for years I have petitioned them for membership. Unfortunately, they have yet to recognize my scholarship.
You resemble someone of authority. 2 rogues, likely freemen, have stolen a precious item from me. Pay attention! And to think my taxes pay your salary. This village was once a bustling crossroads for traders and dealers in the arcane. However, in recent years, it has become a barren outpost for the ignorant. Disgusting, sweaty, pathetic things. Do not misunderstand me. I have sympathy for the wretched, but only if they're far from my doorstep. It was an impressive gem sold to me on the road to Haxi. Quite the curio. It is called the Eye of Aman, a magical token shaped by the Fae Aman the Clever. I've yet to research it thoroughly, but it is certainly valuable. I am W. Mundus, owner of Oddities and Curios by W. Mundus. I have lived in our village for nearly 1 year. I detest it, and don't get me started on the Alpha. One must keep an eye on every possession since the freemen began to terrorize the plain. Some dare to enter the village even with the militia outside. There were 2 of them, swarthy brutes, hairy, filthy. I shudder at the thought. The beasts ransacked my antiquities collection and stole several notable items. I am a gentleman, and if you can recover my amulet, I will make it worth your time and effort. I glimpsed them leaving through the back window as they made for the woods. Name your price. Well, perhaps that's not accurate, but you will win my favor. And they don't call me the richest man in Gorehot for my charming personality. Excellent. I will stay here, secure, and wait for your return. I've told you everything, fool.
I am on official business. Unless you've been sent by the Alpha army, we have no reason to speak. I was a soldier once, in the years before the Crystal War. I saw many die at Galafor Fields. You could say I learned my lesson. I'm here as a recruiter for the Alpha army. My superiors believe there's still fresh blood to be wrung from the Forsaken Plain. They're wrong, of course. Let's just say I'm glad I'm not one of them. War is harsh on many people in many ways. Those of us who can avoid the suffering should. Ask anyone and you'll get the same answer. They're animals. They care nothing for the mortal races. We're just dust to them. Enough! Keep your voice down! You're right. I'm a scoundrel and a coward. But you would have done the same thing. Give me a chance to make it right. You have my word, as a father. My informing days are over.
Thank you for coming all this way. I don't know if you heard that, but it sounds as if General Talera is still here, in exile. For all but losing the fortress of Melsenshire. Long ago, Talera led our forces, but then the Tuatha produced a foe she could not best. Her forces barely survived the retreat out of Cluracan. Many blamed her for the loss, to have built up hopes so high, only to have them topple. That was Talera's crime, and she has paid for it, day after day. You're as quick as ever. Talera is in the cradle of summer, banished from the battlefields of Mel Senshir until she can atone for her past. According to the Fate Weaver here, she seeks an artifact from Ural Tusk that might break the siege and aid our forces. But she cannot do so alone, for poor Talera is fated never to succeed. That is where you can help. Last I heard, General Talera was somewhere in northern Erethel, searching for a way to turn the tide of the war. I think she took a squad to Urltusk.
It's about time. Someone knew. I was beginning to think I'd turned to dust here at this counter alone, uninteresting and not having spoken to another soul in days. Han likes to keep me up here, because down there I fill his ears with talk. Like that's a bad thing. This village is a graveyard sometimes. Talk would do it some good. Molly Janik at your service. I teach alchemy. What can be taught, that is. Most of it is a gift. Either you have it, or you don't. It's big business around here. The magic of the Forsaken Plain has cooked up some mighty strange ingredients, that's for sure. You'll find some pretty weird stuff. My father was an alchemist. He trained me and my sister Lila to carry on his legacy. Lila hates people, spends most of her time in the Cradle of Summer, alone. Dull. I hate to say it, but the refugees are the most excitement we've seen here in weeks. You'd think there'd be more drama with a war on, but not in Emir. Here we are between the Cradle of Summer and Rathia, and I spend my days watching the clouds drift by. What do you want to know? If you're going to spend time with Lila, you might want to prepare yourself beforehand. She's, unique. Lila has spent far too long in the Cradle of Summer with the Fae and their magic. All of that exposure has, how do I put this, altered her perspective. She's strange, all right. There, I said it. Han is an idiot. He's the only one who's imposed this ban on refugees in the village. To what end? They don't want trouble. Only food, water, a warm bed. Idiot.
Got any coin to spend? How's for a quick fate read? Got the cards all ready? Don't know much about it, really. I'm not from here, I'm just passing through. If you've got a knack for it, there's a living to be scratched out of fate weaving. Farmers like to know their yields in advance, at least. Nasty out there. But with Freeman plaguing the roads south, there's not much safer travel to be had. Cold comfort.
Isn't it a glorious day, as if Helios himself warms us with a smile? To what do I owe this courtesy? I only have a few moments to spare. The godstorm awaits my return, and it doesn't like to wait. I have never laid my gaze upon it. Such a thing would not be proper. I am a dustling, a child of death. The Cradle of Summer must not be sullied by my taint. It is a good place to find the peace I need to complete my work, although the refugees have certainly slowed progress. I am not one for the cacophony of any kind. I don't know how the Fae in the Cradle of Summer can stand having us so near. Our mortal din is far too distracting, even for me. I was born in the city of Rathia, an orphan of the Wending. One day, I stumbled upon the Scholia Arcana library, and I found new life in the ancient books. My advice to them would be to gain some perspective. Villages grow and burn. There is only one event that is worth our attention, and that is the Godstorm. Of course, I don't typically prefer the company of others. Take the leader of these refugees, for example. Master Elrod Edmund. Gruff, coarse, not a pleasantry in sight. Why, the Godstorm is the greatest event that our fragile world has ever witnessed. It was a battle, a conflict between Fae. They call it the Withering War. That's why I relocated to Emer to complete my book, the definitive work on the subject. The village is nice enough, quiet, although the new arrivals give me no peace. Sadly, I lack the last few resources needed to tell the full story. The works of the famous scribes Ewald, Dalston, Callas, and Wildfrold. Gone. I was so close. It is not in the Fae's nature to fight. The summer and winter courts have existed in harmony since the beginning of time. Leave it to us mortals to ruin a good thing. 500 years ago, the Summer King Issa and the Winter Lord On broke from that pattern and fought a battle here, on this very plain. The land carries the scars. They are lost to the ages, I'm afraid. Minds such as Ewald and Callas are rare. I suspect that their works have been spread across the plains.
Please, make yourself comfortable. We don't see too many travelers in a mare these days. Not with that forest of tents growing out front. Relax and partake of what our small hamlet has to offer. This is the birthplace of alchemy in the Feylands. These plains have been soaked in the deepest magic. Every leaf, every stem, every root holds secrets. If you want to know more about our history and about the fascinating flora and fauna of the Forsaken Plain, speak to Molly upstairs. She's a sweetie. Refugees from the coast of Twili. They claim their village was burned by Tuatha, but I know better. The Tuatha here in the realm of the Summer Court? I think not. They began arriving several weeks ago, marching from Galafor with their belongings dragged behind them. We've given them all we can, but we only have so much. No problem. We just fixed one up all nice and tidy. You're welcome to it. Go on up. It'll be nice to have a new person in town. One who's not looking for handouts.
Stand back! The jail is closed to everyone but the militia. You'd best stroll elsewhere. Refugees are everywhere around the village, and they'll snatch anything they can get their sticky fingers on. Honestly, I didn't even know this village existed. I couldn't point to it on a map. It could disappear tomorrow, and no one would even notice. You wouldn't believe who they've got back there. Real hardened criminals. I think. Most of them just look like refugees, but how can one really tell? I can't give you entrance. It goes against every code I've sworn to uphold. At least, I think it does. I was a scholar before the war, a teacher in the fine art and history of tapestries and painting, skills that have little use during wartime. I became a soldier for the coin. It was that or starve. A shifty lot, those vagabonds. I'm not a noble, but I've taught enough of them to know that their condescension is justified. Some people are just born to steal, to scrounge. They can't help it. It's in their nature, like animals.
Oh, hello. Lovely weather. Have you spotted any sativa fiber? It's okay if you haven't. I'll keep looking. Lovely weather. I've always felt a kinship with the flora of the plains. Do you? Can you feel them break the soil with their stems, their muse of thirst on the driest of days? I do. There is no richer region for reagents in all of Amalur. They say this is where the summer fae first rose from the earth. I find the fae very odd. How about you? I use it in potions to protect the corporeal form, to ensure health and longevity. It also makes a pretty decent aphrodisiac. That's something you're interested in. You met Molly? I love Molly. We haven't seen each other for years. She likes to talk about alchemy, while I like to do it. Have you ever eaten star thistle? It burns. Leela Janik, didn't you know? I thought that's why you were speaking to me. I collect plants, to sell, to mix, to eat. Some of them I haven't figured out what to do with yet. What I'd love is some sativa fiber, fresh and unpicked. There's a patch of it, but the spiders won't let me near. Oh, hello. Did you just get here? Why wouldn't I want it? I've been chewing it since I was a child. It's what makes me impervious to harm. I'm completely indestructible, in case you hadn't noticed. If you can help me get that sativa, then I will be sure to give you a discount on all my alchemical goods. My sister Molly is a trainer. She'll drop her prices too, I promise. Don't do it on my account. The Cradle of Summer will provide. They have a nest in one of the small crevices at the foot of the cliffs. You'll know it by all the corpses.
Are you one of the intruders? One of the children of the dust? What else can we possibly give you that you haven't already taken? The Cradle of Summer is not a flower for the plucking. For many seasons, we have protected this sacred space from the darkening influence of the mortal world. For it is here where we Summer Fae first set foot in Amalur. But with the rise of the Tuatha, the magical barriers protecting the Cradle of Summer have weakened. If this continues, nothing is safe from the blight of winter. I am Kalar, guardian of the Cradle. Terenier and I safeguard what has never needed protecting, until now. With our weakening magic, the Fae must tend to our own. Mortals, children of the dust. Those who seek only to steal the treasures of the land from which we sprung, to end the deep slumber. Mortals, like you, who seek to bend nature to their will, to make it bow before them as a servant, not embrace it as a guide and mother. Mortals, thieves, liars, and weaklings. They have stolen items of great power. They have stolen the three staffs. They are Rivener Tarsus, Gloamfrost, and Ender's Fire. 3 incredible weapons forged to end a war that was threatening to engulf your mortal world. Such prizes, such items of power and importance cannot be kept in the open, and so they were hidden here. That is, until the intruders took them. A child of the dust wishes to help the cycle? Why, there is no precedent. If you truly wish to assist those of us in the deep slumber, you are welcome to. The 3 staffs were stolen from Sill Hollow and destroyed by the thieves who did not comprehend their power or their value. I heard their dying screams. The pieces must be recovered and the staffs must be reforged. If you can do this, you are more worthy of the Cradle than I could imagine. But likely you will not. It is the most powerful form of Fey reverie. A connection between our people and our birthplace of Ashara, the realm from which all magic is born. We in the Cradle of Summer slumber to protect this sacred place. We draw energy from our homeland and use it to maintain the barriers that keep out the beasts and men. They were wielded during the long twilight of the Withering War. Those 3 weapons uprooted mountains and left the lush plain forsaken. They are the lightning, the fire, and the ice. They are precious. And while their magic has weakened in these fell lands, they are still cherished and must be returned. It is for those answers that I seek the wisdom of the slumber. For it is in its reverie where I will learn the whereabouts of these thieves, Raff, Purter, and Hagney.
Thank the gods. Someone's come for me at last. Yes, I am the scoundrel you're looking for. Yes, I stabbed my partner in the back. Do with me what you like. Just please, please take the amulet. It's yours. It's terrible. Fire, ice, lightning. You will see. Yes, and I am a thief. Never had a spot of good luck. But taking what belongs to others doesn't make me a bad man, just a weak one. I've trekked here for several days and nights in search of Sill Hollow, but I've yet to find it. I can't say I'm comfortable here. Too many Fae, too much magic. He lives in Emer. Pompous blowhard going on about his artifact collection to any who would listen. Name's Imundus. Wayne Imundus. It is ancient, they say, as old as the Cradle of Summer itself. Armin the Clever calls it his home, even though no one has reported seeing Armin for centuries. Edwin. He was my partner, and a good one. But soon as I saw the amulet, I had to have it. Stabbed Edwin, took the goods.
You can say I paid for my treachery. I'll tell you why. This Fey trinket belonged to Armand the Clever, and it's cursed. Like most, I considered it an old traveler's story. Well, now I'm a believer. It's real. I have the scars to prove it. Your only hope is to give it away, or to travel to Armand's Hollow, in hopes you can remove the curse, which is why I'm here. Please, take the amulet. I am so weak. I cannot withstand its influence. If I possess it any longer, I will surely die. Perhaps the most treacherous and playful Fey ever to walk the green lands of the Summer Court. Evidence of his trickery can be found all over the Phalanx. Armand's Hollow of Syl is not far, right here in the Cradle of Summer. That's where I'm headed now. It is my salvation. Legend says that Armand crafted it by combining lightning, fire, and frost, an arcane trick he stole from the Scholia Arcana. All I know is what I've seen. Once that amulet is in your possession, it will torture you. Only the strongest can withstand its punishment. Only one such as you. What a relief. You have no idea how long I've been trying to abandon that damn thing. In order to be rid of its curse, you must take the amulet to Armand's Hollow of Syl and cleanse it. Armand wishes to make you enter his lair and face its many dangers. But once you've done that, the amulet is yours to keep. If you ask me, it's a high price to pay for a rather dull trinket.
Hail. I am General Talera ap Gwydion, former commander of the Eastern Alpha forces. Surely you're not the aide Aelin Shear promised. She spoke as if she planned to send a whole squad of soldiers, not one faceless mercenary. You have the bearing of one that's seen combat, but you never fought in the war, or you would know who I am. Once I was the commander of Mel Senshir, the Alpha fortress to the east. I held back the Tuatha at every push before the Baelor came. Then everything fell to pieces. So, she is behind this. That woman. One too many times she's meddled in my affairs, making promises she never intends to keep. Well, perhaps it is for the best. The fewer people involved in my affairs, the better. You see, misfortune follows closely at my heels. It is the lot fate has cast for me. The Baelor is a thing of dread, a Niskaru lord that the Tuatha managed to coerce into fighting on their behalf. Against the Tuatha I had some success, but no ordinary weapon can best the Baelor. One must fight darkness with light. We may be lofty, but we are not weak. Our land is cold and harsh, and we have long studied the noble arts of bow and blade. Across 1,000 battlefields, my spear paints a red masterpiece. Mel Senshir is the gateway into Cluracan, but it's been under siege ever since my defeat. I failed the city once. I can't fail them again. Long after the Arathi left our world, the mortals built these windstones to call them back down. I've never seen them work, but, as I said before, I'm not known for my good fortune. Earl Tusk, the tomb of the Divine Fang, the piercing light. With a weapon like that, I could rally the troops at Mel Senshir and perhaps redeem myself. They say the ruin is guarded by legions of Niskaru, led by a beast known as Azagal. Whether this is true or the stuff of legend, I don't know. 10 years ago, I served the Alpha armies, defending Cluracan and Mel Senshir from the Tuatha armies. Then, Witch Knight Malwyn led his Tuatha summoners against us. The fiends routed my soldiers at every turn. Now they've had Mel Senshir under siege for years, while I've been searching for a weapon to turn the tide. With Tuatha raiding parties along the shores, Rathia has the only port for safe passage across the strait. But after assisting Mel Senshir for so many years, the ruling council of Rathia is loath to offer more aid for what they see as a lost cause. The years have been long since I first learned of the means that might deliver Mel Senshir from the Tuatha. It lies in Earl Tusk, beyond a gate fated never to be opened, in a hall awash with Niskaru. Any who seek access to the ruin must face them. These ruins are said to be the resting place of the piercing light, a spear carved from the tusk of the Niskaru Duke, Gajor. The legends say it destroys any horror, in the mind or on the battlefield. No place is more deserving of such a power as Melsen Shear. For all my years of research, I've only ever found one clue to this puzzle: when the great voices rise in song. It may refer to the wind stones scattered across the plains. They bear a striking resemblance to the stones of this ruin. But that's simply me grasping at answers. Take this chime. It is said to have been taken from the ruin during its construction many centuries ago. I've tried using it on the windstones with no luck. The inscription says the gate will open when the great voices rise in song. I think this means the windstones that are spread across Erethel. There's one just a little to the south. Go there and strike this chime near it. I'll stay here to see if it has any effect. I can't believe it. The gate shifted? For all my efforts, you simply appear and make it respond. No, you've opened one part of the gate, but 4 more remain. You must find the wind stones scattered throughout the plains and activate them. I will remain here. The Niskaru will sense that the seal is weakened. Someone must try to hold them back.
My, you've gone and killed the spiders. How grand, how very grand. Normally I don't condone the killing of innocent creatures, but those are so creepy. You are too kind. From now on, you are considered a valued customer to all the Janiks. Everything is cheaper for the Spider Slayer. That is your name, isn't it?
Don't mind me. Just another refugee looking for a handout. Life's tough, what with the Freemen striking us at every turn. You understand, I'm sure. I knew the gem was cursed. I overheard Faye speak of it, and of the great trickster Armen. But the curse is worth the agony. Imagine the gold! I am a refugee, heading west from the Tawili coast. A grieving son leaving his dead mother behind. To think there is scum that would steal a man's sole inheritance. They should be ashamed of themselves. With all they have, the least they can do is spare a little extra for the dying. We're not bad people, just unlucky. Haven't you heard? The Tuatha have moved raiding parties inland. They've sacked homes all along the coast. Farms burned, whole families killed. Those of us that have survived are moving west, hoping the Summer Fae will provide a safe haven. The last hope for the hopeless. Not professional bandits, exactly, but sly enough to cut a living out of this dried and dusty wasteland. You never know where they're going to strike next. So, you found out. Gelt told you, did he? No matter. The amulet is cursed. That old fool in Emer won't want it back. Wonderful. Give it here. The amulet itself isn't worth the stone it's made from, but it's the story that interests me. Something of Armen's belongs to me. I don't have much in the way of gold, but I have acquired quite the collection of useful items in my, travels. That's why I like you. You prefer action to debate. You will go far because of it. Like me. Well, like me before I was betrayed and left for dead.
You're in my path, stranger. I ask that you step aside before I cast you off the cliffs. I hold it as dear as any Fae, but my time had come. However, I took a piece of the cradle with me, a part of a weapon I was meant to protect. I'd earned that right. Can't you feel it? Ever since the Withering War, this stretch of earth has been enchanted. Some prefer to call it cursed, but I see all of this magic as a blessing. I walk the broken hills and ravines, searching for the answers to this question. What lies across the sea? Who is calling me with her fiery breath and knowing whisper? I was once part of the deep slumber, but wished to depart the dreaming to pursue something that is more familiar to mortals like you. Ambition. For seasons, I dwelled in the cradle of summer, as is my role in the telling. But something called to me from beyond the sea. A whisper of power and corruption. I fought our Winter Court enemies right here on this soil. But it was all in vain. The seasons pass as they always have, and always will. There is no ending the winter. That's laughable. I don't know you, I don't trust you, and I don't like the looks of you. I'm plagued by visions of what your kind call the future. A telling beyond the present. It is all because of this new god. She clouds my thoughts, confuses me. You appeal to me using your mortal sense of guilt, something I truly do not understand. However, my role in the telling does not include Riven or Tarsus. Take my staff. The peace you seek is within. May it bring clarity to the deep slumber.
Care to join me in my work? You look like you could use a few moments of quiet reflection. Of course, the Cradle, an incredible setting, so rich in its magical history. I was there months ago searching for artifacts, but only came across a few random wand components and a reagent or two. Nothing fantastic, but definitely worth the trip. I am a student of the world, my friend. The world. One cannot learn what he wishes to know from books and recipes. No, he must search the countryside for answers. Look around you. This ruin holds knowledge so deep that no one man will glean it. But that will not keep Arion Raff from trying. Ha! An incredible region, one that begs to be studied. Where else can one truly get a sense of the withering war and its dramatic effects on our world? It is endlessly fascinating. We have nothing like it in all our long histories. The Fae are singular in their abhorrence of warfare. It's what makes them unique. This warped old rod? I can't imagine why you'd have any interest in it. It's a patchwork piece, coupled together from bits and bobs. However, I did invest many hours of my life in its construction. My hands still bear the calluses. I would part with it for a price. I couldn't have parted with it for any less, you understand. A man's handiwork is still worth something. Enjoy the peace, and good day.
What do you want? Do you always approach strangers out in the wild? It's a bad habit, to be sure. I don't care where we are. All I care about is finding some place to call home. The Fae can keep their blasted battle, their glory. I just want a decent night's sleep. I was a seamstress who made nets for the coastal fishermen. My hands may be callous, but they're strong. Few of us had even spoken to each other before the Tuatha came, but tragedy has a way of throwing disparate souls together. What kind of question is that? You want to know about the Tuatha? Go back to Tawili. Gaze at the fires that never cease. There's your education. What was I supposed to do? The Tuatha will sow terror far beyond Tawili to the depths of Dalentarth if they can. I only did it for the money, but I will never do it again, you have my word. Spare me, please.
Stop staring at me. I'm not doing anything strange. You're the outsider here. I worked in my uncle's granary. I hated it, but I guess that doesn't matter now. I'll take the little gold I have left and start my own business. Someplace safe, I hope. I'm just here. What do you want me to say? My farm was burned just like everyone else's. They had farms in Culm, right? They aren't so scary. People round here are just bitter because the Tuatha destroyed their lives. I guess it's mostly a matter of perspective. Tuatha? Are you mad? The only thing I know about the Tuatha is how they killed my cousins and put my granary to the torch. Who told you? Was it Froma? I knew she was weak. I need the gold, okay? The Tuatha took everything. The least I can do is take their money. Listen, spare me and I'll leave. Disappear. Just go where they can never find me. That's a promise.
Oh, you're a welcome sight. A minute more and I'd be joining our friends on the hill here. Thanks for the assistance. I just figured everyone out here in the Forsaken Plain was either a refugee or one of the freemen. Looks like I was wrong. I don't mind it as much as most, but I was raised in Detir, so I can handle the heat. Can't stand the bandits, though. It's impossible to get a decent night's sleep. You've got to watch your step in the Forsaken Plain, for every cave holds a bandit. Every refugee might be a cheat out to swindle us all. The freemen are especially fierce, for they're fighting not for the take, but for their very survival. Not so different than you or I, they are. I'm a refugee, like the others in the tents. It's a desperate place. People will do anything to see the next morning. Steal, kill, you name it. Not all of us are from the village of Kulm. We come from all along the Tuili coast. Farmers and merchants, veterans and scholars. The Tuatha have put our possessions to the flame, but we will never accept defeat. Not so long as leaders like Lord Crass and Elrod Edmund act as our standard bearers. Actually, I'm a bit ashamed to say. I'm searching for a grave, but not just any grave. The last resting place of Azo Raymond, richest of the Tuili merchants. They say he died early in the march west, claimed by the Forsaken Plain. Rumor has it he's buried with the famous rings of Azo. I could live a year on those. I'm glad to hear it. There's plenty of ground to cover between here and Rathir to the north, and another pair of eyes will be a huge advantage. Most of the graves are along the refugee route, usually surrounded by crude markings or gestures left by loved ones. It's a pity they couldn't do more. I heard Azo profited greatly from the war in the east, but that he was forced from his home when the Tuatha plundered Erethel. He moved west with the refugees. But the Forsaken Plain is no place for fat, wealthy merchants. They say he died quickly, with not a soul to mourn him. If I knew, I wouldn't be hiking all over this hill, reading names on worn gravestones. With my luck, it's on the other side of the Forsaken Plain.
I knew someone would come. They all said we were as good as dead, but I held out hope. I don't know why. Never had any reason to hope before. So what's your story? Grave robber, treasure hunter, or like us, a refugee in search of shelter? The name fits. We didn't have an easy life when we farmed the fields below Kulm, but it was nothing like this. If the bandits don't get you, the starvation will. She's from the camp on the hill leading into a mare. She's a liar and a thief. Twice I've caught her sneaking into our tents to steal food. Worse than a boggart. Omer Vogard was Kulm's primary hunter, but it wasn't long after the Tuatha attacked that his hands gave out. Now he can't even hold a bow without shaking. I took over his job, and his heart. I tend to stalk my prey as opposed to shoot it. Something about looking it in the eye before it dies. There's respect in that. We probably could have sought refuge in Rathir, but there is no way the Dokkalfar would have allowed us to stay. But if we don't belong there, where do we belong? I don't know much about Oriator, but what they taught in the village schoolhouse, before it was burned down. He was a war hero. Gallifore Fields, I'd gather. He is my beloved. Yes, there is a difference in our ages, but I believe that Omer's experiences have given him a lust for life, one to rival a man with half his years. A good man, that one. Not one to give up on me. Well, it's good to know we're not forgotten. Of course, our problem remains the same. We can't leave. The tomb floor is rigged with a trap. We barely made it halfway in before Fea Gorta rose from every shadow. We reached the stairs, but now we're stuck. We weren't looting, believe me. We'd have no place to put it. In fact, we've already stored most of our valuables in Bitter Cove to lighten our load. All we were hoping for was some shelter from the elements, for a moment's shade. But this tomb is protected by something devilish, and it wants us out. How noble of you. If this were any other situation, I would question your generosity. But seeing as we're out of food, I'll accept it wholeheartedly. The lever to deactivate the blades is located in the room at the top of the stairs, past the rune trap that summons the Fair Gorta. If you can get us out of this, you'll be someone special indeed. Past the rune on the floor and up the steps in the memorial hall. Try not to let the statues scare you. I can tell you have a delicate constitution.
Ha! I knew I could count on you to bring her back. I could see it in your eyes. A spark of recognition. You have a love too. Or did at one point, you know. There is no thanks worthy of this deed. But you were entitled to something. I was a hunter once. Those days are finished. Yours, it seems, are just beginning.
May I help you? There is very little of interest to know about me. I'm a simple scholar. I am here for the serenity, the quiet. It took much gold to secure a permanent residence here, and for reassurances that there would be few questions. Where did you hear that name? The man you speak of is dead, and all of his wealth has died with him. I told you, I don't know the man. Enough. You're persistent, I understand. What do you want? I want no part of that old life. Not the gold, not the reputation, not the worry. I made that false grave because I was tired of people hounding me for salvation. Wish to know where my money is? I'll tell you, it's gone. All gone. All I have left are my family rings. I just want to be left alone, to start over. Can't you appreciate that? Please, show me some mercy. So it's blackmail then? My new life is worth more than any jewelry. You should learn that now, lest they try to put a knife in your back.
I'm just about ready to give up. Tell me, have you heard any news of Britt Hagney or his final resting place? Great Mithoru! They're even more dazzling than I dared hope. You could have kept them, but you didn't. You are a friend of the Forsaken Plain refugees, and to me. Please, it is paltry, but accept this as thanks. May the Authority watch over you all of your days.
The road has been long for you, my friend. You wear the dust of a job well done. I thank you. The people of the Tuuli Coast thank you. I have seen much savagery on the eastern shores. May it stay there, where blood fills the boots of the fallen. We all do our part. You have done yours.